Aha! I have bamboozled you. Today we are looking at another elf deck, but it's a Nightmare Shepherd elf deck. And if you know anything about Nightmare Shepherd, it's a really cool card. So for 4 mana, you have a 4/4, and whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that is a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1 and it's a nightmare in addition to its other types. What deck needs this? Elves and Pioneer. It isn't a tier deck I've noticed, but it should be. I think Elves should have a really good fitting in this format. Not only does it have ramp, but it has the ability to make multiple creatures. It has lords. You can play Mirror Image to get like real good options on the board. Reclamation Sage. Do you know that THEROS is an enchantment-based set? We had Kaladesh, which is an artifact-based set. We have artifact and enchantment creatures everywhere. And one of the best decks, Azorius Control, runs enchantments as their removal spells. Reclamation Stage is going to be awesome. And not only that, you can freaking use Mirror Image on it. The Shaman of the Pack. This card is amazing. Enters a battlefield. Target opponent loses life equal to the number of elves you control. I mean, come on. And in Steel Leaf Champion, you can play this out turn 2 if you play an elf turn 1. Like, that is amazing. And with Nightmare Shepherd, all those ETB triggers that we looked at, such as Shaman of the Pack and Reclamation Sage and Dwynen's Elite, we get them again. That could just win us the game. Although we only play one Nightmare Shepherd in this deck in the main board, we also play another one in the sideboard just in case we need it. And we play Chord of Calling. So it's basically 5 in the main board. But Chord of Calling allows us to do it instant speed. So the point of only having one in the main board is to be able to toolbox it out when you're playing against something like Azorius Control in order to go, haha, well, you lose now because although you just board wiped me, I am going to get 2 Shaman of the Pack triggers and kill you. And like that's just really cool. And it's a 4 mana 4 for a flyer to boot. It might not be an elf, but this is the deck it belongs in. I don't care about Black Devotion. I don't care about any of that. This is the best deck in my opinion for it. Although we only play it as a one of because you can't really hit it off Collected Company, and you have to wait till at least turn 3 to play it. But it's amazing stats. So turn 3 having a 4/4 flyer that protects all your other creatures basically, that is awesome. Along with that, yes, there's a Chord of Calling and Collected Company, and just all these elf triggers. The mana base, it's Thoughtseize, so we have to play the blue for a Mirror Image. We get to play Mana Confluence as well, so we shouldn't have to worry about that double black and the cost, because we're basically a mono green deck. Every single one of our lands produces green, but then it also, except for the forest, produces another type as well, because we have to be able to produce black and blue. In the sideboard, we get to play stuff like Tormod's Crypt like everyone else, because there's some graveyard decks running around. Life goes on because we have like 2 top tier aggro decks. I don't know how well this works against them, but I know that life gain in the sideboard is always a good idea. A couple Thoughtseizes. This can get us out of the way of something like Settle the Wreckage or another hand disruption spell. It only has a 2 of. It's kind of an expensive card, but in the sideboard, it works. Assassin's Trophy. Destroys just any permanent, so this can get rid of even planeswalkers. Yes, they get a land, but that's all that really matters is to be able to get the real threats off of the board. Nissa, Steward of Elements. This is a $3 card. $3 freaking dollars. And, I mean, it's pretty good. It's really good at building your board back up, and it is an okay finisher. Like, if you can get 6 mana, you can play this at 4 loyalty. You go ahead, you scry 2, and then the next turn you'll swing for like 10. Not only that, but the scrying 2 helps with the Collected Company. You can check the top 2 cards of your library. If either of them are creatures that you want, you can just leave them there. And if they're just lands, you can throw them to the bottom and then go ahead and try to collect a company after that and see if you hit anything you need. Another Reclamation Sage. This card is going to be a staple in green because there's not only are there going to be enchantment creatures, there are going to be the sagas that are coming back. We had sagas, I think, in Dominaria, so those cards are playable. You have all of the vehicles. I mean, vehicles are still going to be coming out. So Reclamation Sage, I think at least every deck plays at least something that Reclamation Sage can hit. And, I mean, it's worth it to be able to a 3 mana 2/1 that's an elf that destroys something, maybe even a creature. That's pretty playable in the right deck. Not Another Nightmare Shepherd, awesome card. Might need to side to board it in against if they're playing all them board wipes. If not, you can even sideboard it out if they aren't anything that you need to worry about with it. But it's still a good beater. And then Driven to Despair. This card is amazing with Steel Leaf Champion, so let's read it out. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain trample whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player. Draw a card. And then its aftermath is until end of turn, creatures you control gain menace whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player. That player discards a card. This plus Steel Leaf Champion, you are not going to be able to block generally a Steel Leaf Champion with Trample, Menace, and its normal effect. What are the chances that you're going to have 2 3/3s on the battlefield? Like, that's, like, if you have 2 3/3s on the battlefield, at least Driven to Despair, at least, like, it's going to make it really hard to block all my other creatures as well. And it just really makes it worth it. But also, not only that, it's the fact that you get to draw cards and they discard a card, that's also good against decks that are planning to board wipe. Because if you do it the turn before they board wipe, because generally those decks don't play a lot of creatures. Like I think the Azorius one, I think it only plays like Torrential Gearhulk as its one creature. You're gonna get in. So if you can make it where they discard 2 cards and you draw 2 cards, sure they can board wipe, but you already got all your card advantage out anyways. But this deck comes in at plus the sideboard, how I have it right now, comes in at about $500. If you go light on the mana base and you cut off things like Mana Confluence and even go a little light on the Botanical Sanctum and Breeding Pool, which apparently Botanical Sanctum is like half as much as Breeding Pools are, funny enough. But I think these lands are actually better than the shock lands. Yeah, I mean, unless your deck plans to go to more than 4 mana, but it's still, these cards should be worth a lot more. I think this deck should be at least a tier 2 deck, in my opinion. If people actually tried to play it, this deck has a lot of potential. With the fact that Chord of Calling and Collected Company get you a lot of value and a lot of insurance, a lot of consistency. Because this deck, you can have a Shaman of the Pack on board, use a Collected Company, hit a Shaman of the Pack, then a Mirror Image, and you can just kill your opponent. Like, you'll not only does Collected Company get 2 creatures, but in this deck it can hit a Steel Leaf Champion. It can hit 2 Steel Leaf Champions. 4 mana for 2 5/5 or 5/4s that can't be blocked very easily. That's amazing. This deck needs to be board wiped or heavily attacked on board. There are so many 2-for-1s in this deck. It's amazing. Like Dwynen's Elite. You can't just use spot removal on it. Yeah, it'll enter the battlefield and you can kill it, but like I still get the 1/1, and that's all that matters when I'm playing stuff like Lords and things that make the Lords and more Lords. But yeah, this has been the Popper J MTG. If you are okay with my 1-month hiatus and you'd still like to subscribe, go ahead. I'll post something again eventually, and I'll see you guys in the next video.